Hello, happy Friday. It is February 16th today, and I have had a rather short week. I had to miss a day. My son couldn't breathe on Wednesday, and he's had an ongoing issue with just his breathing, a croup cough. So, unfortunately, I will no longer be completing my practicum hours just before March break. I will have to continue after March break, but that's the way she goes sometimes. Family comes first. So he's okay and just going for further tests and finally being admitted or referred to a specialist. So, enough about that. My week in the classroom. I've had another great week. I love being 100% in front of these kids. I feel very fortunate that we have a really, really great group. We've had a little bit of shifting with, losing some couple editions. I really think that I lost a couple students in my grade 9 class due to their thought process of thinking that they're just going to play with hair immediately from day one. And unfortunately, there are definitely some things to take care of beforehand. So, not mad that we lost them, although I think they were great students, but it's just the way she goes sometimes. So, uh, this week has been mostly just kind of assigning an actual seating plan now that I've had a little bit of time to see who kind of hangs out with who, different personalities, trying to seat people that are friends together, knowing who I can kind of trust a little bit more, that are a little bit less in my sight lines, that sort of thing. There's been a few that are kind of not super tight with somebody, and I've chosen to kind of pair someone that's a little bit more of a bold personality with someone that's a little bit of a quieter personality so that they hopefully like feed off of each other a little bit. So that's kind of my intention with that. And so seating plans, they all know that it's not necessarily permanent. So that's certainly a thing. Introduce them all to their salon jobs at the end of every class, particularly practical classes when we're hands on and we're actually working on mannequins or clients. There's much more hair that gets dispersed around the classroom, lots more moving about and touching different surfaces. So, really gave them we kind of went over a slide deck of all the different specific jobs and exactly what each job entails. And then afterwards kind of delegated each of those jobs to individuals. So someone's in charge of Windexing salon mirrors, someone's in charge of wiping down the shampoo chairs, the basins, all the different cabinets and handles that we touch. And so started off with that. They actually had quite a bit of fun when once we went over the jobs, I had them kind of get to it. And uh, I really went over sweeping as I've volunteered in Miss Bolton's class before. I really emphasized like I understand some of you have never swept before. You either have your parents do everything, or maybe you vacuum instead, or maybe you're fortunate enough to have a housekeeper. But I do expect you to sweep effectively. I don't want to see anybody whose job is sweeping to push a broom for the sake of pushing a broom, because I have seen it in the past. So I did a little bit of a demonstration for them. Um, and it was great because some of them were like, this is going to be my job. Miss, can I please have laundry? Or, someone was like, I know I can sweep and make you proud. Can I have sweeping under the stations? And it was really kind of cool. They really enjoyed it. They take pride in their jobs, which is fantastic, as they'll be taking care of that the last 10 minutes of every class. So that was really neat. And we also went over safety. So I did take one morning and really compiled a bit more of like a fresh slide deck, if you will, had them go over it with me. Tried to use a good combination of photos and verbiage. Tried to keep it really direct. We do need to go over WMIS, but there is limited WMIS symbols that we really encounter in the salon on the regular. So I really tried to keep it more focused on things that we actually encounter. The things that I stress the most is that we are one of the few professions that we get into a person's personal bubble, and we don't go to school for 10 years to become a doctor. We do 15 hours probably in school, 1,500 hours in school, and an additional, 2,500. Typically it's about 4,000 hours or so before you get your license. So you're looking at 1, maybe 2 years worth. And I really kind of stress that we get into people's personal bubbles. Sometimes they're sick, sometimes we're not well. So we really need to be mindful of frequent hand washing and then cleaning any surface we touch after every service at least. So really, really, really stressed those points is the frequent hand washing, good hygiene practices, as well as high touch surfaces, and it really exposing them to what those are and effectively cleaning them. And so they did, immediately after we went through the slide deck, I loved how interactive the Kahoots was when we did the classroom expectations. However, Kahoots doesn't really give me anything tangible in terms of, producing a mark. So I did create a Google form and just kind of did a pop quiz immediately after doing health and safety. And, once we've gone through all of this, now I want to know, what did you retain right after that? Did any of it sink in? Did a little of it sink in? So I do need to go back. There was a communication question that, a little hot tip from one of my colleagues in the tech department. If you're going to do Google Forms and there's any communication questions that you need to personally mark, put those at the very top. Have that the number one question so you're not scrolling and scrolling and scrolling looking for your communication question. It's right there, and Google Forms kind of does the calculations for the rest of it. So do need to go through and mark all of those this weekend. So I don't have final marks just yet. I did tell them not to stress. It's nothing to be insanely concerned about. But I think they overall did quite well. Some of them finished earlier than others, and that's quite all right. They had the Chromebooks with them, and anyone that finished relatively early, I just quietly went over and had said, do you have anything for another class that you could potentially work on the Chromebook? And I'd say about 80% of them were like, oh yeah, absolutely. So it's quite all right. I let them catch up on a little bit of other homework that they might have had, and those of them that needed a little bit of additional time, they had it, and no challenges or qualms there. I do have an individual that is, she should probably be in the life skills room. I have met this individual in the past. Her parents really advocate for her being integrated into a more normal classroom, although I know there's a good amount of things that don't necessarily sink in for this individual. So I did have some printouts of the slides, and so she essentially got to do an open book quiz. Very fortunate that Miss Bolton was also there with me, that she kind of sat there with her and really worked through the questions. And she felt pretty good coming out of it, and I think she felt rather accomplished that she did the same task as her peers with some accommodations, of course, but she, she left a little taller that day, which was really neat to see. And then on Wednesday, when I was actually absent with my son taking care of his health, I had planned Ms. Bolton and I had spoken previously doing a Wellness Wednesday, but I really wanted to alternate that with a What's Up Wednesday. And What's Up Wednesday is to really give these students conversation skills, for lack of better terms. I really want them to feel comfortable sitting down with someone and looking them eye to eye and down the road, we will give them prompts like, what was the best thing that happened to you this week? Is there anything exciting happening in the next month? Are there any birthdays in your family, any celebrations? Like just being able to prompt some conversations with them. And so we had them do an All About Me assignment that they were to create almost, it looked like an Instagram profile, but what is their favorite food? What is their favorite holiday? Their favorite animal? If they had a superpower, what would it be? So there were 9 items listed on this, and they were to bring that former assignment that they filled out about themselves, they were to bring that to class on What's Up Wednesday, and we were to kind of find someone that we had a similarity with. So if, 2 students loved Mars chocolate bars, okay, let that break the ice for you. Why is Mars your favorite? Has it always been your favorite? We really kind of primed them with the 5 W's and how. So who, what, where, when, why, and how. When do you normally eat a Mars bar? Is it more of a treat, or is it something you have regularly? So just prompting them with getting a conversation flowing, because we are very customer service based in the cosmetology industry, and we need to be able to hold a conversation with our clients to really create that relationship and that bond with them. So this was an activity I had them do on Wednesday with Miss Bolton, and it was really neat because on Thursday, yesterday, whenever I was back in class, I got to follow up with them, and I didn't get to follow up with my grade 12s, but I feel as though them being more of the seniors, they're more comfortable with each other. And they actually had a presentation happening by St. Clair College, which wildly enough, esports provides full ride scholarships. Not so mad my child plays Rocket League anymore, but so it was my grade 10 class that I was really looking forward to following up with, because there was an incident with a student and Miss Bolton on Wednesday. She had showed up to class on Wednesday without her assignment. She told Miss Bolton she took a picture of it and put it on Google Classroom, so she threw it out. Mind you, we told all of them, please bring this to class on Wednesday. We will be using it for an activity. So that was a little bit challenging dealing with that. This individual has been homeschooled for the last 4 years since COVID started. And this is her first semester, I believe, in a traditional school environment. So definitely comes with a little bit of challenges, but I guess Miss Bolton had some challenges with her because she really sassed her and got kind of in Miss Bolton's face and a little bit disrespectful, ended up going to the office. Miss Bolton did have to call home and speak to mom and figure out some details and what have you. But she came to class on Thursday. Funny enough, we saw her in the hallways on our way to lunch. She's third period after lunch. And she said hi to us in the hallways, and this is the day after Miss Bolton sent her to the office. And Miss Bolton kind of snickered at me and said, oh, she's glad you're back, I bet. And so here we were, and what I did was they had all recorded their findings of similarities that they had with other peers in the classroom and some of their investigative findings. And I had them all get in a circle on one side of the room, and we had a bit of a Socratic seminar in the sense of, I'm terribly sorry I missed yesterday, but I want to know, what did you find out about your peers? So let anybody want to start? And Ram started, and Ram said, I got a chance to meet Sarah, and Sarah actually really loves Christmas, and I love Christmas, and she loves Christmas because ABC, and I love Christmas because of these reasons. And then, I took a moment to dig a little bit deeper into each individual's situation to kind of show them, okay, you've scratched the surface with these people, but let's find out a little bit more. Like, do you have any siblings at home? Are they older or younger? Oh, they're younger? Do they still believe? Do you get them gifts? Do you make them gifts? Do you have any special traditions? You might get together at your aunt's house, as you said. But what's the number one dish you most look forward to? All these kinds of things. So they really kind of lit up a little bit that I think they started to realize, oh, wow, some of our similarities might have that icebreaker, if you will, but how much deeper you can dig into a person and their preferences and their personality, really, just from one topic. So that was pretty neat. And then I did find a TED Talk. There was a woman named Marissa that she is a specialist or does a bunch of research on adult friendships. And as much as her TED Talk, which was done during the pandemic, so she was recorded much like myself in front of the screen right now, but she had discussed the value of adult relationships, the vulnerability behind adult relationships, but she also spoke to the fact that it does require effort, that if we just anticipate an organic, like a friendship to happen organically, it's much less likely to happen unless there's some form of effort coming forward from us. And another fact that she had studied is if we go into a situation assuming that we're going to be liked by the other person, we're actually much more likely to be liked. Whereas if we go into a situation assuming that we're not going to be liked or will be disliked, we come off as cold and therefore much less likely to build or develop relationships. And she used the reference of her being new in an apartment building and the neighbors down the hall that she had seen in the hallway, and her hoping that this would just kind of organically happen. And then she realized, no, I need to go out and I need to introduce myself and kind of put myself out there. And it was a really great, quick little 7.5 minute video that I think I will try to implement in all of my future classes, because not only did the other individuals in the class who had participated in the assignment, but this individual that was sent to the office, who is a little bit socially awkward, I really think that there's many things from yesterday's class that she will take with her, and I hope to see her flourish. I really do. I know she has potential to be a really cool individual in there. I think she just needs to gain a little bit of confidence in showing that individual off, if you will. So yeah, it was really great. And I don't know if I should get into this because I realize this is already now a 20-minute video, but did encounter a challenging situation with someone from last semester, a student who started out in the 90s, slowly did not hand in some of the assignments. She ended up with 5 zeros, and she's not really strong when it comes to projects. And our final assessment is based on an ISU rather than a written exam in our course. So she didn't exactly do very well. She, instead of using class time very wisely, she took a lot of time to fool around with her friend. They did break some of the school property. They broke a tripod of mine as well as one of Miss Bolton's. We didn't, in fact, see them do it, but we've had multiple students confirm it was these two, which I knew they were using my particular tripod the day that we discovered it broken after their period. So I'm not surprised, but we didn't grade them any particular way due to the fact that these tripods were broken. they were marked accordingly to the rubric and what we had kind of broken down in terms of utilizing class time wisely, the final results, and all these kinds of things. So, um, but what happened was her parents had come at Miss Bolton relatively aggressively and stated that the student had come out of the semester with a 78. Now, mind you, she got her report card a week ago. And just, a week goes by and they come at Miss Bolton aggressively and state that their daughter deserves to be on honor roll. And they want to see a breakdown of all of her grades, all of where did this mark come from. She's a 90 student, she's on a roll, how dare you give her a 78. And mind you, the mother of this child is our campus minister, so she works at our school, and her father is a secondary teacher at another school within our board. So Miss Bolton went above and beyond according to other teachers within our department, and she did work with our principal to find out the limitations, but she had sent a full breakdown and said, these 5 zeros that she was reminded she has time to turn these items in. She didn't turn them in, so these 5 zeros are what really hurt her, and this is where her mark is. And they came back at Miss Bolton and stated that you don't know what you're doing, you're not weighting correctly, she did those assignments, you're giving her a poor mark because you think she broke your property. They really came at her hot and heavy, and I'm surprised that they threatened her capacity to mark, because I think she does a really great job. And then beyond that, she sent over her rubrics and really looped our principal in. And, the situation has now been rectified. Like, even though we're past first semester, Miss Bolton gave her one final opportunity to submit the 5 zeros that were in her column. And we're in semester 2, and she sends over measly excuses for filling in those zeros, and her mark went up to an 82, I believe. So she's now back on honor roll. But apparently that wasn't good enough for this individual's parents. Mind you, this is a person that's in grade 9. She's rather immature. And do her grade 9 marks really weigh that heavy? I don't believe so. But it was just a really good experience, I think, overall, to see that Miss Bolton did not shake or waver or anything. She was frustrated and kind of shocked that this individual, who she's normally friendly with, came at her so fiercely. But she had all of her rubrics and the way that she marks and everything lined up, perfectly aligned, and here you go. This is what your child produced. In hindsight, our principal had stated, well, once she started trending with some of those zeros, that should have warranted a further discussion with herself or her parents. Excuse me, mind you, your parents are in the school system. Why they're not on your Google Classrooms is beyond us, but that's another story for another day. But either way, this child now has an 82, and that's as good as she's going to get. She's immature, and she, quite frankly, does not even deserve an 82. But the privilege is real. Like, your parents work in the system, therefore you're going to argue and fight for a mark even after it's all said and done. And how many other students have that privilege? It's kind of shocking. But on that note, that is all for me this week, and I do look forward to getting into next week, as I have a really cool project planned for my students, and been in contact with Skills Ontario. They're going to be implementing hairstyling to their trailers. They're getting 3 new trailers to do events, and I've been in contact with them to somewhat strategize how to keep it interesting and safe at the same time and helping them budget. So I really, really look forward to that overall experience. And it's a long weekend, so you guys all have a great one.